All right. Hello, if anybody can already see me. I'm just going to check and see if I'm streaming on YouTube real quick. Sorry, just trying to pull this up here because it's having trouble pulling up this on the phone. Okay, good. It looks like I am live and the frame rate is good, which is awesome. I think we're doing better with the frame rate just because I've had my computer running all day. I think it's when my computer first starts up, it has some trouble. So hopefully this is working for everybody. And I'm just going to go ahead and try and get into the chat so that I can see if anybody's in the chat, or if not, just to keep an eye on it. And just do that real quick, and then we will get started. I apologize for the people who maybe were on time or watching on time, and who, okay, there we go, because I was a minute or two late here, but and I'm gonna just hit publish on my Parlor post here. So I am on Parlor now. I chose to go on Parlor because just in case, like, right, so far I have not been overly censored on, let's put this lower third up. There we go. I've not been overly censored on social media. I know Twitter has something now where if I reply to someone else's tweet, it gets hidden under a show more replies thing. So there's that. And I know that Tumblr has me shadow banned such that my posts are not necessarily showing up in hashtags. So like if I hashtag something pro-life or a hashtag something whatever, like, and then you go to that hashtag on Tumblr, you're not seeing my posts. So that is my understanding at this point, is what's happening. So because of those things, I am now on Parlor, and I am working on getting this channel up on BitChute. So I'm in the process of transferring videos over to a BitChute channel, and once that is kind of ready to go, I will share that link with people. But right now, I'm still trying to get videos transferred over from YouTube to BitChute. So the idea is that everything I post on YouTube will also show up on BitChute, and so you could follow me on either or both or whatever. And then if for whatever reason I'm ever taken down off of YouTube, or that the algorithm's not showing you my videos or whatever it is, you can go over to BitChute and I'll be there. So trying to kind of have some redundancy, so just in case. I'm a small enough channel, a small enough social media presence in general, that I'm not currently, it's not currently too big of an issue right now, but in the event that I get enough attention that they decide to shut me down, I want to have that redundancy. So anyway, so I'm here today, not to talk about any of that. I'm here to talk about voting and this election that's kind of a mess. And our elections have been kind of a mess for a really long time. I think longer than most of us realize. And the more I'm researching kind of the history of our Constitution and of our electoral system and what our elections were supposed to be and how they were supposed to operate, the more I realize just how far away we are from whatever it was that our founding fathers, the founders of our country wanted for our electoral process. Because I know that there was, that what we have today is not what they wanted. And because of all that, I see a lot of frustration from a lot of people who don't feel that they fit in with either party as those parties now stand. Like, there's some people who maybe used to consider themselves a Democrat or Republican maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, and are now looking around at their party going, what the heck happened? This is not the party that I thought I was, okay with. It doesn't represent my interests anymore. There's a huge hashtag walk away movement. If you do hashtag walk away, that is people, it's primarily people walking away from the Democratic Party. But it's really interesting if you go listen to the stories of these people who are walking away from the Democratic Party. You're going to hear similar stories on the Republican side as well. There's just a lot of people who are getting very frustrated and becoming very cynical and jaded with our electoral process. And we see this in our voter turnout numbers. And I just did some quick Googling. And I just looked at Wikipedia, and I'm not going to bother sharing my screen because it's an easy enough thing to look up. But I just went on Wikipedia and looked up voter turnout, and I'm looking at it right now. In 2016, they're estimating somewhere around 55.7% voter turnout in 2016. And that was like the big election. That was the big Trump versus Hillary election. And it was this big deal. And and there was so much made out of voter suppression and voter whatever. But, when you have 55, you have approximately half of eligible voters coming to the polls or sending in their mail ballot. We do have absentee ballots. That's not something new this election. Like, absentee ballots have been around for a long time. But when you have only about 55% people participating, there's something wrong. And the assumption usually is that the people who don't participate are lazy or apathetic, or in some cases that they're working so hard that they don't have time to go to the polls on election day, or even during early voting. And that's why we have early voting. It's why we have absentee. I think we should try to encourage those people who are choosing not to vote, not because of the voting itself, but more because of the issue of I'm working that day. It's too hard for me to get to the polls. I don't have a car, that sort of thing. I think we do need to make sure we have those solutions in place, but I think it's misguided to assume that that's it, that that's the whole issue, is just people being able to get to the polls or the polls being accessible. And so I think that's just, I don't want us to get stuck in that mindset and think that that's all there is to this. Because I think there are some people who are apathetic or maybe even lazy and just like, I can't be bothered. Or just, my vote doesn't matter anyway, that sort of thing. And I think there's people who fit into those categories, but I don't want to pretend that that's the whole picture, because I think there's a lot of people out there, and I'm seeing more and more of this, who don't vote because they look at our options. They look at the people who are running for office and they say, there is nobody on this ballot that represents me. And it's not that they're lazy or not apathetic. They're actually usually very politically involved, or very involved people and active people, even if it's not necessarily politically in the sense of elections and voting. These people are usually, calling representatives, attending protests many times, like these, people who are very generally active people. They want to take an active role in their society. They want to actively work to make change. And they just don't see voting as the solution. And I agree with them. Voting is not the solution to all of our problems. A lot of people think that, well, if you have a problem with this, just go vote. Just go vote and it's going to fix everything. It's not going to fix everything, especially because we know that, we look at our two options, quote unquote, and we say, oh my goodness, I don't like either of these options. Neither of these people are going to fix the problem. And so, why even go vote? Because if I vote third party, I vote independent, my vote doesn't count. And that's part of the lie that I want to correct. And I want us to stop believing that lie. That if you vote third party or you vote independent or you do a write-in vote, that your vote doesn't matter and you may as well have not voted. Because that's what we've been told, is that if you don't vote for one of the two main parties, that you might as well not vote. And a lot of people have taken that to heart and said, okay, well, I'm just not going to vote then. And it's usually the people who are saying that, who are saying like, oh, you might, your vote doesn't matter if you don't vote for one of these two parties. They're trying to encourage you to vote for one of the two parties, and lesser of two evils. And so I think we definitely need to get rid of this idea of the lesser of two evils. We definitely need to get rid of this idea that third parties don't matter. I think they matter a lot. And I want to encourage you, if you're really frustrated with our electoral process right now, if it's just really frustrating to you, and you're like, why am I even voting? Why do I even participate? Because none of this matters. I want to encourage you to still go to the polls, because I'm going to the polls on November 3rd, or possibly before. I might do early voting. I don't know. I want to encourage you to go vote. I want to encourage you to not just vote this November, but I want you to encourage you to vote every single time that your county has an election, because it's not just every 4 years or every 2 years. I voted twice already this year, because we had our primary back in March, I believe it was. I'm in Texas. I believe our primary is in March. I think we were Super Tuesday actually, or something close, or something around there. So I voted in the primaries, and then I voted for a runoff. It was a runoff / special election for my county. So I've already had 2 opportunities to vote. Now, here's the thing. In both cases, there were people and policies I voted for that did not get anywhere. And that's frustrating, because you vote for that person who's like, this is the person. This person represents me. This is who I want in office. This is who I want making decisions. This person represents my values. And then they don't make it. It's so frustrating, because then you feel like, well, why did I go out there? But I do think that we need to understand that while the voting will not solve our problems, and we have to solve our problems, we have to stop putting the responsibility for every single problem that we have on our elected officials. We need to start recognizing that when we have a problem in our community or in our society, we need to be the ones to step up to fix it. We need to work together with different organizations that work to fix these problems. Like, this needs to be something that we step up and do without waiting for the next election. And it's like, if your concern is that people don't have access to healthcare, let's say your concern is healthcare, waiting for the next election, voting for somebody who's promising to fix healthcare in whichever way you want them to fix healthcare, whether it's universal healthcare or free market healthcare or whatever it is that you're trying to get done that you think is the solution, you need to go out there and work with nonprofit organizations, work with people in your community to fix that problem. Because if the problem is access to healthcare, maybe you need to be working with local healthcare officials, or maybe like local medical students, nursing students, stuff like that, to create, free clinics that are accessible. We need to start doing these things in our communities without waiting for government, and not expecting that government is going to come in and make everything better, because they're not. And if they do come in, they're going to make things worse and not better. At the same time, to take that and say, well, voting won't solve our problems, so we shouldn't vote. I disagree with that. Like, there was a time where I almost went to that position of like, well, voting isn't the solution. We don't need a government solution for every problem, so let's just stop voting. And my issue there is because when you stop voting, the people, you're just being silent, and you're letting somebody else speak for you. And what I mean by that is, when we look at those voter turnout numbers, and we say 55% of people vote, and so about 45% of people don't, the media, politicians, all these people make up all these reasons why you didn't vote. And if you didn't vote, you're probably also not responding to polls. Like, if you're being called by poll takers and stuff like that, you're probably not responding to them either. And so you're not necessarily conveying the message you think you're conveying. You think you're saying, oh, well, by not voting, I'm showing that the process is stupid and that we don't have faith in the process. There's a more creative way to show that. I think, where you actually do get your message across. And that is voting for either A, the candidate that you think is actually good for that position, if there is one. If there's a candidate, any candidate, I don't care what party they're in, I don't care what their campaign budget is, I don't care what their chances of winning are. But if there's a candidate that you think this person would actually be good in this position, vote for it. Vote for them. If there's a ballot proposal, you vote which way you think. And if you want to vote no on something, it could be like, free puppies for, or like, I don't know, homes for puppies or something like that, which sounds great. But you're like, well, wait a second, government shouldn't be doing this. This should be something that a private company or a charity does. Then vote no on the puppy proposal. Just like break yourself out of the expectations. The expectation is that you're going to vote for one party or the other. The expectation is that you're going to vote yes on proposals that sound nice. No, research the proposals, research the candidates, and vote. And then here's the thing. The statistics come out from those votes. So you vote for whoever you want to vote for, and they probably won't win. And you're like, well, what was the point? But the point is that the political people, the people who are manipulating everything, the people who are running campaigns, who are strategizing, the strategists, right? They are looking at those voting statistics. So they're not just looking at who won. They don't really care about who won so much, because they're not thinking about this election. By the time those election results come in, they're thinking about the next election. So what they're looking at is what segments of the population, what precincts, what counties, what cities voted for different things. Even if their vote didn't elect the person who won, oh, look at this. This community, this neighborhood, this precinct voted, primarily this way. Why is that? What is it about that candidate? What is it about that policy where they have such a strong opinion? Because they turned out to vote. And this is my other thing. So when we vote third party, we vote Libertarian, you vote Green Party, you vote whatever third party, Constitution Party, Solidarity Party, whatever it is that you are voting for, whatever party you're talking about, when you vote for them, you're adding a little bit more weight to what they have to say. And the more people who vote for them, for those third parties, those other independent parties this election, the more attention those parties will get next election and in the years in between. So if a certain percentage of people vote for the Libertarian Party, let's say, the media is going to pay more attention to what the Libertarian Party has to say. That doesn't mean they're going to win next election, but it means that they're going to have an easier time getting their message out. And when you vote, you say, you know what? I want to hear more from these people. I want people to listen to them. You're not just voting for who gets that office. You're voting for who gets attention, who gets donations, who gets their voice heard. And so, personally, as of now, I am planning to vote for Jo Jorgensen. That could change, depending on what she does and says in between now and then. For president, I'm planning to vote for Jo Jorgensen. There are a lot of other things on that ballot that I'm also researching and looking at. Okay, who am I going to vote for this position, for that position, for railroad commissioner, for school board, for state board of education, for community college board. I'm looking at all of those positions and all the proposals that are going to be on the ballot, and I'm saying, okay, what are the important positions here, and who are the candidates? Are there candidates who represent what I think? Who really, I'm like, yes, I can get behind this candidate. And if not, I'm still going to go vote. And here's what I'm going to do. Whenever possible, if I can't vote, if there's not a candidate that I can vote for in good conscience, I'm doing a write-in. I'm writing in somebody's name. And it might be Rand Paul. I might write in Rand Paul And he's not even in my state. He's in Kentucky. I'm in Texas. But I might just write in Rand Paul, or Ron Paul for that matter, or somebody like that. I'm Murray Rothbard. Like I might write in Murray Rothbard. If you don't know, like it's if you get into kind of anarcho-capitalist circles, he wrote the book on anarcho-capitalism, like the definitive text. So I might write in Murray Rothbard, for some of these positions. But what that says is, I showed up. I got out of bed. I got out of my house. I got off my butt. I went to the polls. I got in my car. I drove to the polls. I put on my mask, because that's what we're doing in 2020 now. I did all those things. I put in effort, and I got to the polls, and I didn't vote for either of the two parties. And that says something to the strategists. The strategists see that, and they go, wait a second. Look at this number of people. Like, you can take that, you can put this in a spreadsheet, you can crunch all these numbers, and you can get this number of people who showed up to the polls and didn't vote for either of the two candidates who did write-in votes. So how many people got off their butt, went to the polls, made the effort just to go do a write-in vote? And why? Why would you go to that much effort? Especially because I'm going to go vote in person. I'm not doing any mail-in ballot. I'm voting in person. Because I want them to know I got off my butt. I went to the polls and I voted for, Murray Rothbard for railroad commissioner or something like that, and because that, and my voice alone, my vote by itself does nothing, right? But my vote in connection with other people who show up, put in the effort to actually go to the polls, or even to do the mail-in ballot, either way, but who put in the effort, because if you're doing the mail-in ballot, you still have to put in the effort to put it in the envelope, seal it up, fill out whatever you got to fill out, and stick it in the mailbox. And if you're like me, that actually requires go walking across the street. I can't just go outside my door. I have to actually go walk across the street to the closest USPS mailbox. So what that's saying is, okay, I actually care enough to vote, but I'm not voting for these parties. And so the thing, because the assumption is, here's the assumption. The assumption is that if the 45% of people who didn't vote, they're not going to vote, no matter what you do. And that it's a waste of time to try and get them to come vote. And so the political establishment decides we don't care about them. We don't care about their voice because they're not going to come vote no matter what we do. When in reality, the reason why most people who don't vote are not voting is because they've lost faith in the system, because the system continues to fail them. So my theory is that if those of us who, or those of you out there, because I've consistently voted. Now, I used to always vote pretty much straight Republican. I don't do that anymore. I've given up on that. But if you, people who don't vote usually, who maybe never voted before in their lives, maybe they've been an eligible voter through multiple elections and they've never gone out and voted at all. If those people say, you know what, I am going to go vote this year, but I'm going to vote for a third-party candidate. I'm going to write in Murray Rothbard. I'm going to write in Kanye West. I don't care who you write in, but you go and you show them, I'm willing to come out to the polls, but you need to give me something to vote for. That's really what it is we need to tell those who are pulling the strings, those who are doing all this stuff, that I will not vote for your candidate just because they're on the ballot. I'm not going to check off their name just because they're there. You need to give me something to vote for. You need to give me somebody worth voting for. Policies worth voting for. And you need to follow through on those policies. So let's say you got an incumbent, an incumbent candidate who's maybe been in office, in that office for a decade. No, you don't get to just be, rubber stamped back into your office because you've been there for a decade and you're running unopposed in some cases. And that's what bugs me is when people are running unopposed. It's like, how easy would it be for somebody to come in and disrupt that? Like, this person's just been in this office forever because nobody runs against them. Like, how easy would it be for just some person to come and say, you know what, I'm going to get on this ballot. I'm going to run against this person and see what happens. Like, yeah. And that's the other option too. Like, if you're somebody who's like, you know what, all these choices suck, go run for a local office. Go find, look up your ballot, look up your sample ballot, and look at your ballot and say, okay, who are the people in my county or in my state or my city who are running unopposed right now? Who doesn't have opposition? And in a lot of states, it's either too late or almost too late to get on the ballot for this year. But what I want you to do is look at those people who've been running for the same position, like they've been in the same position for a decade, and they're running unopposed every time because nobody cares about that position because it's some little position that nobody thinks matters. And I want you to go run for that position for the next year. And if you think it's a stupid position that shouldn't exist, run on that platform. Say, you know what, this position doesn't matter. It's stupid. It's pointless. Run on that platform, get in that position and do something about it. Either make the position into something that it matters or help overturn the position. Like, become that person, get that office, beat this incumbent who nobody really cares about and they just keep rubber stamping because there's no other option. Run a campaign, get that office, go out there, get that office, and then go in front of your state legislature and say, hey, I'm the whatever elected official, and I ran on a platform of this position doesn't matter. And to represent my constituents, to represent the people who voted for me, I'm here to tell you to abolish this position. Go do that. Make something happen. Don't just sit there and complain. Make something happen. Make it work. Figure it out. Right? So, as it is, when I go vote, in the past, I've never voted for those unopposed positions unless I looked that person up and they genuinely were a good fit for the position. If I genuinely liked them and said, okay, this is a good candidate for this position, I'm glad they're in this position. Otherwise, I've said, no, I'm not voting for anybody. I'm going to show up and vote, but I'm not voting for this person just because they're unopposed. And this year, I'm definitely going to be looking at my write-in options because I need to double check whether I should be able to write in for most positions, if not all. But basically, any position where they're running unopposed, I want to go say, you know what, hey, let me write in a candidate. Even if there's nobody else on the ballot. So that's my encouragement to everybody. Just as you're looking at this election, and if you're feeling discouraged, like a lot of people are, if you're feeling like you're not going to show up to vote, or if you've never shown up to vote and you're like, well, why would this election be any different? They always say it's the most important election of our lives. They always say that. It's like, we don't know that. We don't know what the most important election is. They're all important. And rather than buying into that, like this is the most important election, blah, 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 recognize that elections happen all the time. They happen pretty much annually. There's like almost always something coming up, at least in my county. We're always having special elections or special votes on specific policies and things like that. And that's how it should be, because that's how the people have more say. But the problem is that people only show up. The voter turnout is highest in a presidential election, and even then it's only 55%. So we need to start paying attention to what our government is doing. We need to start paying attention to these people in elected office, these candidates that are running for office, and these election processes. We need to stop being apathetic about it, because like it or not, that this is what is controlling much of our lives right now, especially under this pandemic, these unprecedented times. We are so controlled by the government. And if we want to change that, we need to be active in our communities. We need to be pursuing other solutions. We need to be building solutions that don't involve government. We need to be cutting the government out of our solutions. Like, we just say, okay, we have this problem. We're not going to ask the government to do anything about it. We're going to go fix it. And then if the government tries to stop us, we're going to tell the government to get out of our way. And that's 99% of the time the government is just in the way. And so that's where it's like, okay, we have this problem. We're going to go talk to the government about it because they're part of the problem. We're going to need to tell them to step back and get out of it. But in general, what I want to encourage people to do is not just to assume that you need a government solution or to just say, well, I give up on the political process. I want you to say, you know what, the political process exists and it has an inordinate amount of control over our lives. So I'm going to go and disrupt. And I'm going to disrupt by not voting for either of the main parties unless they actually put forward a candidate who I actually like. Every once in a while, I'll see a candidate, who I really actually like, who happens to be running for a major party. Usually it's the Republican Party. And they're running under the Republican Party, but their views are more libertarian, because they're more like what Republicans are supposed to be. And I'll be like, okay, this is a genuinely good person, or their views specific to the position they're running for. So it might be like, okay, they're running for railroad commissioner, and I love that example because it's just such a ridiculous office that shouldn't exist. But they're running for railroad commissioner, and they say in their platform, yes, this position is ridiculous. Or yes, it's not really relevant or anymore. It was established for this reason, and that's no longer we don't need this anymore, and so I'm going to change this or that. And I don't care what their views are on other things because they don't have control over those things. I'm voting for them for what their views are on the position that they're entering into. So that's just my encouragement. Like, if you're feeling frustrated and you're feeling like, well, I can't vote for any of these people are all stupid, get to the polls anyway and write in. Do write-in votes. Just do it. Get there, do the write-in candidate. You need somebody to write in Murray Rothbard, write in Rand Paul, write in Mickey Mouse. I don't care. Like, just write somebody in if none of the candidates are any good. And don't be afraid to vote for the independent, the libertarian, the Green Party, if that's where you go. Though if you're watching my channel, you're probably not Green Party. Unless there's probably one person who might be watching my channel who might be voting Green Party. But otherwise, just vote for somebody who you think represents you, or do a protest write-in, protesting. And, heck, you can write in, Black Lives Matter if you want to, or preborn lives matter, if you wanted to do something pro-life there. I'm really appreciating Students for Life's campaign right now, the Black Preborn Babies Matter, or Black Preborn Lives Matter, because it's tying in with the Black Lives Matter movement and the idea that when we talk about Black lives, we need to talk about how Black women are targeted for abortions, and how Black preborn babies are, some ridiculous disproportionate, have this disproportionate risk of being aborted. And that needs to be part of the conversation. If we're going to have this conversation about systemic racism and race and all this stuff, we need to be talking about these babies that are being killed every single day. So if you want to write Black Preborn Lives Matter or Black Preborn Babies Matter or something like that, go write that in. Do it. Because somebody has to read that. Somebody's going to be looking at all those write-ins. That's somebody's job, is to analyze all the write-in votes. There's probably multiple people who are going to be doing that for every county. Like, there's probably somebody assigned to every state or every county to sit there and look at all the write-in votes and analyze them, and then report their findings to whatever political analyst group or campaign strategy firm or whatever it is. Somebody's looking at those votes. And so if nothing else, that person is going to see, hey, wait a second, there are people who have viewpoints here that they feel are not represented by these candidates. And what can we do with our next, campaign or our next thing to better address what those people are concerned about? And again, all of this is with the understanding that voting is the least of the things that you're doing to be active in your community and to be active in the issues you care about. That if you have issues that you are passionate about, that you think we need immediate systemic change in these issues, the voting should be like the last thing that you're worried about for that. Like that should be the least that you're doing. And that really the solutions are so far beyond voting. But voting should not, you don't have to stop voting. You can do both. You can go create active solutions in your community and you can go vote. Do both, right? Vote and solve problems. And that's how we have to be up until the point where we are able to somehow fundamentally change or recreate a system. Maybe someday we're in the position of creating a whole new system. But until then, we have to do all of these things. We have to have active solutions in our communities, and we have to go vote. So that's my take on that. You can disagree with me. You can leave comments telling me why you think I should vote for Trump or Biden or whoever it is. Right now I'm planning to vote for Joe Jorgensen for president, and I'm also planning to do my research on all these local candidates so that I have a good sense of who I'm voting for long before November 3rd and good sense of who I'm writing in for. Like, where am I writing in Murray Rothbard? Am I writing in, other options here? So thank you guys for watching these videos. And I know a lot of people watch them later. They're not able to do the live stream. I may change my live stream time just because school, as I teach and our school schedule is starting back up. We're not in classes yet, but we are doing kind of the teacher in-service stuff now. And we will start online classes pretty soon, and then we will eventually maybe do in person. I don't think it's going to happen for a long time. We have a school board meeting coming up, and I think they're going to delay us again. So because of all that, I do want to consider changing the time that I do these streams. So if you have a suggestion for if you're watching this after the fact, if you're watching this video later, I want you to go ahead and leave a comment and tell me what time would make more sense for you. Like maybe you watch this later because you can't watch at 4 p.m. Central on Mondays, which, that was the option that got the most vote, or got pretty much the most votes on the poll, but that I sent out like weeks or a month ago. So that had the most responses, but I'm getting the sense that that's not the best time for people. And I don't want to keep changing the time because I want to get some consistency going. But I do want you to just let me know what you're seeing and what you're thinking as far as times that make sense. And I may just change the time anyway because I need to, because my schedule might get to the point where 4 p.m. is no longer doable. So if you have suggestions, if you have, it's going to be either afternoons or it's going to be weekends. So kind of give me your sense of what that looks like for you and what would make sense, what would get you to be able to watch live with me and, maybe get some chats going in the comments or in the live chat. So thank you guys, and I will see you soon. I actually have a video coming out tomorrow morning to check out for that. For those of you who are telling me that you are scared of all the things that are happening right now and you want to know what to do to be prepared. So I've got that video coming out. It'll automatically publish tomorrow morning, and then I'll post it on all my social media once it publishes. But you can hit subscribe. If you subscribe to my channel, you'll see it before I post it on all my social media stuff. So you'll be one of the first to see it. So that'll come out tomorrow morning. If you have not hit subscribe, please do so. I really appreciate it. It really helps. And hit like and all of that good stuff to help let me know that you're here and let me know that you're watching, and leave comments. So thank you. This is Pro Life, Pro Liberty, and I will see you all soon.